since the ride was first made. So I don't know, like maybe eventually I will update this segment or add to it, or who knows, maybe one day I'll become a Disney vlogger and I'll upload a vlog of me riding one of these rides. But who knows what the future holds. Hello! Guess who had to move to California because of all the transphobia? So yeah, my partner and I had to move. Hold on, this is crushing my head. So yeah, me and my partner had to move from Texas to California because there's a little bit of a moral panic in this country about trans people. Love that for us. So yeah, I live in close proximity to Disneyland, so I am entering my Disney Parks era. I'm on that Jenny Nicholson shit for real. It's been a rough time for trans people lately. So just like getting to have this nice day out in like a big public setting and doing fun things and getting to hold my partner slash fiance's hand and wearing dorky pride merch and seeing like so many so many other people also wearing pride merch. Like it was really nice. So, the last time I was on Peter Pan's flight was either when I was a tiny baby or when I was 14. And I don't remember much of the first trip because I was a tiny baby, and I don't remember much of the second trip because I was 14 and I had like just broken my leg, and I was very, very high on Vicodin. So, we can say that this trip in May of 2023 was my first adult brained clear-headed experience with Peter Pan's flight. The day we went, it was like the perfect weather. It was cloudy with like a nice breeze, and the park was pretty crowded, but not like so overcrowded that everything was a 2-hour wait. We had a really great time. We got to see the Avengers campus. I went on the Incredicoaster. Oh, and according to Jenny Nicholson, um, the bags at Disney parks change like semi-frequently. So for history keeping, this is what the little gift bags looked like. I don't know if anyone cares, but I'll keep it just in case. Pretty much Jenny Nicholson and Defunctland are the only YouTubers who talk about theme parks that I know or care about. So all of my information about what I should be talking about basically comes from them. And speaking of Defunctland, even without the Fast Pass, we were never really waiting that long. Our friend who was with us had that little Disney Park app that let us know the wait time. So we managed to get on Peter Pan's flight at like a 35-minute wait time. The longest wait that day was, I think, 65 minutes. I'm sorry about my dorky filming. I was trying to get as few people's faces as possible, and as you're about to see, my footage from the ride itself kind of sucks. Look, this is my first Disney vlog, okay? I'm doing my best. In my first video, I showed footage of some of the long queuing hallways, at other versions of this attraction, but failed to show the very small queuing area at Disneyland. Most of it is outside. There's some trees to provide shade, and it's like right on the street, so you can see the carousel and look at maybe what you want to do next. But you don't get a roof over your head until you're about 3 bends in the line away from the ride. Those bends, according to Defunctland, are known as switchbacks. In the indoor portion, which still mostly fits the old-timey, like, medieval village look of the Fantasy Pavilion, it starts to get a little more nautical, and there are also some hidden wooden carvings with relevant shapes to the story. Like, hidden is quote-unquote. It needs to be visible enough for kids. The paint on some of the items is visibly worn down because of so many people touching it, which I love. As I've stated, this is a dark ride, which means that it is an indoor ride that tells you some kind of story. And unlike some of the other dark rides that have you following a basically train track underneath your feet, this ride has an overhead suspension system, which makes you feel like you're flying around in these cute little pirate ships. I only filmed a little bit because, frankly, I was having too much fun and just enjoying being on it, and also assuring my partner, who's afraid of heights, that we were only 3 feet off the ground. Also, it's just my phone camera, so it kind of sucks anyways. I'm so sorry. I actually saw someone vlogging that day, and she had like this really awesome like camera with like a stabilizer and like one of those fuzzy mics. And I was like, man. But honestly, I don't know if that's a very solid investment for me. I don't see myself doing any other kind of outdoor vlogging except something Peter Pan related. Anyways, according to my research, the last major renovation of this ride was in 2015, where the positions of John and Michael in the nursery were changed so that they were no longer sitting and were flying with everyone else. I loved the ride. It was flawless. I'd go on it a million more times. And also, for 2 whole minutes, I got to forget that the government in my country wants me dead. So, all in all, 10 out of 10. When we got off the ride, our friend that we were with absentmindedly just kind of asked, I wonder if this looks the same as when the ride first opened. Opening the floodgates for a giant info dump that she was not prepared for and that I had no power to stop. But wait, there's more. Peter Pan's flight will be closed for repairs from June 5th to the 29th. It's June 11th when I'm filming right now. They could be working on it right now. According to the research I've been doing, Peter Pan's flight and 2 other rides are being closed for refurbishments. But what does a refurbishment mean? Like, are we talking a paint job or like alterations? Here's a little additional context. Peter Pan's flight was actually closed for a little bit the day that I was there. So I was afraid for a little bit that I wouldn't be able to fulfill my destiny. But it opened later, so I did get to ride it. I didn't find any press releases as to why it was closed, but according to like some rumors that I heard while walking around, because, you know, guests talk to each other, there was allegedly something wrong with the animatronics in the final like pirate battle area. I don't want to say anything more because, again, it's just a rumor, so don't really take it seriously unless we hear something else. This week during the renovations, they put up these like really big, cool, what are they called? Scrim covers, which are like just a giant tarp with a print on it. I mean, it could be something more complicated than that. But anyways, but either way, work is happening, and we are just going to have to wait and see if that means just like a paint job or if it'll be, you know, some kind of minor change like in 2015. And here's the thing. In my previous video, I was torn between what I thought at the time were 2 equally plausible outcomes for this ride. Either Disney would maintain the initial overall aesthetic of an integral part of Disneyland Anaheim and not make any major changes, or Disney would use their bazillions of dollars to upgrade the ride to better match the technology used in other versions of this attraction around the world. But, after visiting the ride and being on it and just like even just being near it, like being in the, what are you eating? What are you eating? Stop. After being like in the parks and riding the ride and seeing the guests and even just like being around the pavilion area, you know, like the little village with the carousel and stuff, and just like seeing the aesthetic for myself, I have kind of changed my view. My initial belief that Disney was probably definitely going to change the ride mostly came from my skepticism at looking at Disney films, because they're like always like trying to update things and make it look more realistic and just like upping the technology constantly, whether it's actually like warranted or wanted or needed at all. And because of that, I failed to see the parks as an Imagineering venture, which obviously is still like influenced by the films. Like, it's all one big company, right? It has to have like some continuity, but it has a different vibe because it's a 3-dimensional space that people actually have to go to. So it has, I guess, different priorities than the films, if that makes sense. Like, in the first video, I mentioned that I was afraid that Peter Pan's flight might be even, like, on the way out. Like, they might just get rid of it entirely, because at the time I didn't realize that Peter Pan's flight is one of Disney's most popular rides, like, regardless of season. Like, it's always been there. It's always been a part of Disneyland. Like, I didn't realize it was that, like, entwined with what Disneyland is. I was bringing adult skepticism where I should have had childlike wonder, and for that foolishness I must pay. I should have given theme parks more credit. Like, they do it every day. They make it happen. It's a thing where you go and you sit and look at stuff for 2 minutes and it makes the happy chemicals. It's a serotonin machine. It doesn't need projections. Get in the serotonin machine, Shinji. Anyways, I guess all I'll say is that I'll keep an eye out for any changes. Like, maybe there'll be a new video, maybe there won't. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. All I will say is that this ride and me haven't seen the last of each other. My partner is thinking about getting, like, a regular pass because we actually live here. And I don't think that my partner has accounted for the absurd amount of times I will willingly ride this ride. And that's a threat. Happy Pride! Now that I'm done with this video, that means I actually have to work on my Peter Pan and Wendy review. I'm procrastinating a Peter Pan video with another Peter Pan video. We're that deep.